Welcome to the Gavel. I'm Terry Kumi. Now, in the past few weeks, when the National Assembly was on holiday, we took you through the process of the consideration of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill by the House of Representatives. We showed you how lawmakers debated each clause and eventually approved the report and passed the bill. Now, the Senate before now was accused by civil society organizations of stalling the Electoral Act Amendment process, and it would seem that the calls for the quick passage of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill by the Senate was eventually heeded. But is the outcome as expected? Now, when the House of Representatives passed the bill, one key provision was approved and lauded by Nigerians: the mandatory electronic transmission of results in real time, which is believed to be a game changer and expected to improve the credibility of Nigerian elections. Anticipation seemed high as lawmakers reconvened for plenary presided over by the Senate President on Tuesday, the 3rd of January. For the third time in a row, the Electoral Act Amendment Bill came under scrutiny. Lawmakers were set to consider the report of the 7-man ad hoc committee constituted to harmonize contributions from the previous deliberation. But before then, a closed-door session was called.
We went into a closed-door session and had very useful deliberation. Distinguished colleagues will also further recall that a subcommittee was set up at the closed-door session, which was agreed to work on some areas of the bill and then report back in closed-door session today. Further to that, Mr. President, may I then move that the Senate now goes into a closed-door session for further deliberation on this report before we come back to plenary.
The motion has been moved and seconded that this Senate now goes into closed-door session to continue further deliberations of this report before coming back to plenary. Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
And after over 4 hours, lawmakers reemerged in silence, effectively adjourning plenary to the next legislative day. The following day, the scrutiny of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill was again up for consideration. One of the amendments shortened the time frame for the Independent National Electoral Commission to publish a notice of election.
In order that we do not appear to be jumping, which is not our intention, before the learned self would proceed on what you wanted to say regarding section 142, I will implore that we finish with the minority leader who was on section 141. Because we can't really treat 142 without taking the question.
We have not even treated 142.
But that's what they are talking about. So we need to finish with this 141.
Okay, yes, go on.
Clause 47 on the electronic generation of voter identification generated reactions.
Return section clause 47 with a minor amendment from smart card to beavers.
So I propose that we retain the amendment, but we only with the deletion of this particular part, which is the downloadable voter's card with a unique QR code as contained in section 47.
Sir, to leave it open in the manner it is worded, such as B, any other form of identification as may be prescribed in clause 10. No any other form.
No, we said
it
PVC.
has to be PVC because any other form will be open to abuse.
That's correct.
What we are saying is that first version, we are now sticking with the Electoral Act of 2022, but with beavers.
Yes.
What the second motion said was to remove section A, section 1A and B, which is essentially the same section as the Electoral Act 2022, but with beavers. So it's in order. What they are saying is that that we should stick to the Electoral Act 2022 and don't change smart card reader to bimodal voter registration. Beavers.
Shall propose that we remove the word downloadable in that clause. Those in support that downloadable we remove say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
When it was time to consider the clause on the highly anticipated electronic transmission of results, lawmakers opposed the proposal.
Mr. President, I propose that instead of using the word transmission, we should retain what is in the existing word extant law, which is transfer.
Any seconder?
Yes, second.
Yes, DSP.
I second.
Okay.
Did he hear what he said?
The motion has been moved and seconded. Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
This was the Senate President's explanation on the electronic transmission of results, which was just rejected.
The social media already is awash with the fact that the Senate has rejected electronic transmission. That is not true. That is not true. Electronic transmission had always been in our act. And what we did was to return the electronic transmission, which had been in our act and which was used in 2022. So please do not allow people to confuse you. If you are in doubt, we will make up our final votes and proceedings available to you if you apply and you are entitled, so that you will see. This Senate, under my watch, has not rejected electronic transmission of results. It's in my interest as a participant in the next election for such to be done. So please don't go with the crowd. Don't go with the crowd. We have retained what was in the previous provision. That's all we did. So if we rejected what was proposed by way of amendment and said, let's retain what was in the previous provision, the previous provision had made allowance, had made provision for electronic transmission. So it is still there as part of our laws. And I think we should be moving forward, not moving backwards. There is no way we can, in this era of electronics, will now be going backwards. So it's important to know that.
And following reports of the rejection of the electronic transmission of results by the Senate, some senators, led by Senator Inaya Baribe, are insisting that the Senate actually approved the electronic transmission of election results in real time, dismissing media reports suggesting otherwise.
As far as the law is concerned, is inchoate until we meet and approve the votes and proceedings. Until we adopt it, every other thing, it will still be there in the ether. Nobody can go to any harmonization without it. And I assume and I know that the Senate leadership will reconvene the Senate and make sure that we approve the votes and proceedings before the harmonization will take place. After our session, plenary session yesterday, we adjourned, but did not come back to pass the votes and proceedings. And that is our rule, and you all who are here, you know it. The Harmonization Committee cannot meet because the document that we use to go to the harmonization is the document passed by us and ratified by the votes and proceedings. So there's still one more step left by the Senate to take. After we pass the votes and proceedings, in which we are going to insist and ensure that what we passed, which is electronic transmission, is there, then the harmonization will meet. The Senate did not, I repeat, did not pass transfer of results, which was in the 2022 Act. What we passed, and which the Senate President himself, when he was doing a clarification sitting on his chair, is transmission of results. Transmit, not transfer. What is in 2022 is transfer. And we don't want a law that is vague. We don't want a law that will be misinterpreted by anybody. We want a law that is clear, concise, and can be interpreted by all, and that is unambiguous. So it is electronic transmission of results. Yes.
The process and proceedings is that a committee that has been sent out to do a job for the Senate will be seated where questions arising from that report will be put across to them. The chairman of the Electoral Committee was there. We members of the Electoral Committee were there. Some of the questions were not actually put to us to verify, to clarify, and to bring why those particular clauses are there. So don't worry about what happened. We can regulate ourselves, but we know the right thing must be done.
Meanwhile, following the disparity in the Electoral Act Amendment Bill as passed by the Senate and House of Representatives, both chambers have commenced moves to reconcile differences in their respective versions. Now we wait to see what the votes and proceedings will say by Tuesday when the Senate reconvenes and what version the clause on the electronic transmission of results will be voted on and approved. Away from the Electoral Act Amendment Bill now, following the death of 26-year-old singer Ifunanya Wangene from a snake bite at her residence in Abuja, the Senate, through a motion, has asked the Ministry of Health to produce and enforce national guidelines on stocking life-saving antidotes in hospitals.
Concern that a significant number of public-private hospitals across Nigeria do not stock essential life-saving antidotes such as antivenoms and antitoxins or maintain insufficient quantities, leading to dangerous delay in treatment, unnecessary referral, and preventable loss of lives. Further concerned that victims of snake bites and other poison emergencies are frequently compelled to move from one public hospital to a private hospital or vice versa in search of antidotes during the critical golden hour, thereby substantially increasing mortality and morbidity rates.
It is tragic that the deceased went the way she died. But the bigger lesson for us is a need for us to have in place policies that must drive our health care. The fatalities that are caused by snake bites can be very painful and indeed avoidable. We must put in place policies that work.
Welcome back to the Gavel. Now, the House of Representatives had adjourned plenary last week till the 17th of February for various committees to hold budget defense sessions. For this past week, just a handful of committees held such sessions. So hopefully more committees will pick up in a coming week. Well, let's take a look at the Committee on Finance, which met briefly with the Minister of Finance.
You said tenders fee. How many tenders were received for what amount? Each tender, you must state the amount. That 48.5 million must be accounted for strictly, completely. All right? And the rental fees and everything. And rental fees, canteen. You rent your canteen. Is it based on square meter or what? What's the square meter of the canteen? How much per square meter? You must give us details. Don't allow us to be guessing and to be thinking otherwise.
11 million is left on there.
Okay? So, and that, you only accounted for 38 million. 37 million. You said one is 25, another one is 12?
12.
So you still have 11 million outstanding unaccounted for, where it came from. And then we want to see the treasury receipt of the remittance of the 48.5.
They captured the debt servicing under that particular heading. So we would have to trace back as to why. So it is not part of our normal capital budget. It is actually debt servicing.
The acting managing director of the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading PLC also met with the Committee on Finance.
The tariff is broken down to industrial, commercial and residential. And currently the residential tariff, the band A is at 200 plus, while residential still hovers, while band B, C, D still about 63 to 68 naira per kilowatt hour. So there is a big delta between the other bands and band A.
Provide all documentary evidences, payments, who got what, for what reasons, to this committee, approvals, everything. And any waiver thereof, if any, to this committee on or before Monday. Carried?
The chairman of the Revenue Mobilization Allocation Fiscal Commission also appeared before the committee, where he spoke on ending the state government's interference in the revenue allocated to local governments.
The commission would like establish a local government committee now, just like we used to do before Supreme Court said we were busybodies. But now it's going to come. We will monitor every single local government in Nigeria. I'm glad that Mr. President spoke to the governors. He said, if you don't allow this thing, I will issue an executive order. So the commission is fully in support of Mr. President over this, because the crisis we are having in Nigeria today is lack of functionality of local governments, and every single one of us knows this. Even under the military, the local governments were performing much more better.
This week on Constituency Focus, we'll speak to Representative Sesi Wingan, who represents Badagry Federal Constituency of Lagos State in the House of Representatives.
In 2015, I came back to my constituency to see how I can contribute my own quota to the growth and development of my constituency. I started by opening up a center where we run our foundation. We started with few projects. In 2016, we renovated a whole health center. It's called Pota Health Center, for the people of the community. And also after that, we looked into some few issues that we have in the constituency. So I decided to come in by fixing some few roads. There are so many communities that were cut off that people couldn't even reach. You see students working in water to access the basic education that they are entitled to. So we decided to build some few bridges just to connect communities. After that as well, we opened the center when they were struggling in the entire constituency to register for their NIN. They couldn't have access to their bank applications. They couldn't have access to whatever they have in their. We opened up a center where we were doing free NIN. And so far, between 2018 till date that we opened the center, I can tell you that we registered more than 60,000 people. And at the same time, out of those people, we had buses that were moving them from communities to the center and moving them back to their communities. My plan is to see how we can facilitate some few projects like hospitals to some few communities who don't have access to basic health. I also intend to see how we can facilitate schools to few communities that do not have. We see some kids traveling kilometers just to access basic education. I feel that is unnecessary, and that is something that I can address. So I intend to see how we can facilitate schools to these communities just to make education closer, bring education closer to our people. Aside from that, we want to empower our youth. We want to empower our women. We want to empower our old ones. The kind of empowerment that I propose is not the empowerment that we do just for political sake. We want to genuinely empower them, see how we can bring in projects that will build their capacity, how we can bring in projects that will enhance them, and see how they can enhance them and contribute back to the community and also contribute to their own daily livelihood. Like I say to the few ones that cares to listen in my constituency, the federal government is not going to employ everyone. We cannot wait for the federal government to generate employment for all. So we decided to come together and see how we can build our own capacity, how we can get our youths skill, get them skill that they can fetch them their own source of livelihood.
Well, that's all the time we have on the Gavel. Thanks for watching. Send feedback to the Gavel at channelstv.com. I am Terry Kumi. Goodbye.